Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dr. Tim Kremchek. Hey, Doc.
Is it that time again?
It is that time again. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Did I hear correctly? I believe I heard the Hall of Famer Marty B mention you may have been in San Francisco this week.
I was. He said I was incognito. I hadn't been around a whole lot. I was at the game, certainly, but, yeah, we were in San Francisco. My daughter Christy's going to school, getting her master's degree in San Francisco. And,
nice.
Saw two games I didn't really want to see, but the last game was that was as exciting a game as I've seen in a long time. And boy, I tell you what, being 4 games in first place going into the Chicago series is certainly huge. I stayed up late last night watching the Cardinal game too.
So I said earlier, my wife kind of busted me. We were watching TV shows, and I was following the score on my phone, and she was asking me what I was doing, and I was trying to hide it, and she figured it out. So I was tracking the Cardinals.
I felt bad because a friend of mine, I'm part. I used to help take care of the Nationals, and I knew about Strasburg last night, and then it hit the air today, and that's a tremendous blow for that organization. And the doc is a friend of mine who we helped put in position out in Washington. Great guy, and he's got to handle an awful lot. That's a big deal.
That is that's rough. And it's funny. I was driving in. I was thinking about this to ask you, how is it? And this may be a dumb question. How can somebody like Nolan Ryan pitch till he's 47 and have so many pitches in his arm, and yet somebody like Strasburg tear a ligament to the extent he did? What allows even Greg Maddux, who certainly doesn't throw as hard, how do they do what they do and other guys can't?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know. It's the way God put them together.
Yeah.
Why can some people throw the ball 100 miles an hour and some guys like me can throw it 60? A lot of it's genetics. A lot of it's luck. There's a lot of things that go into this. And, you'd have never been able to tell with Strasburg. Again, you take these guys that throw the ball 97, and certainly Nolan Ryan's a great example of a hard thrower, and I think that's just genetics. The same with Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale. But, boy, I tell you what, it's rough, and it's on the same heels of Mike Leake being shut down because of shoulder fatigue. Smart move by the organization, and we sat down and talked about it. And certainly we don't want to see our young guys get hurt, and sometimes it happens before you know it. But in this particular case with Mike Leake, I think the organization's making a smart move. Let's rest him, give him some time to rejuvenate himself, and hopefully get him back in September. For the last couple of weeks of the pennant drive and into the playoffs.
Let's open up the phone lines. If you have a question for Dr. Kremchek, 513-749-1530, 866-702-ESPN. Let's stay on the Tommy John surgery angle, and the younger kids you have seen over the years, and the increase in why the tendon tears in younger kids, and compared to maybe surgery you've done over the last year compared to 10 years ago, how big would the difference be?
It's interesting. Somebody called me when I was in San Francisco. They're doing a story for the Columbus Dispatch starting on Sunday, and it's about a whole 5 days worth of youth sports injuries. So it might be interesting to read. But the answer for that is, I think, overuse. I think these kids are playing baseball way too young and too high a level, too many teams, and asked to do too much. I was actually commenting on the Little League World Series, and I don't watch it anymore. Certainly, I watch the Hamilton team because I want to see them win, and I take care of an awful lot of those kids from the Hamilton team. But the problem is that there's the Little League is I'm not going to say corrupt. That's not fair. But what I am going to say is that I think there's too much emphasis on winning and not as much emphasis on protection of the kids. And you see these 12-year-olds throwing knuckle curves and these breaking pitches that they probably shouldn't do, and they know well enough that they shouldn't. And so I think the answer to that is they're throwing way too much junk with too high an emphasis to win. I think they fatigue and place too much stress on their elbows, and it might not hurt them when they're 9, but it's catching up even at age 12, 13, and 14, and it's becoming a real problem.
Unbelievable. Jerry Krasnick, a former writer here in town, had a great stat today. I guess gives hope for Strasburg and fans of the Nationals. There were 10 pitchers that made the All-Star team this year that have had Tommy John surgery at some time in their career. That blows me away.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's one of the more predictable procedures. There's a handful of us around the country that actually do a lot of them for the not only the major league, minor league players, but the major college players.
Yeah.
I'm actually in that age group. I'm one of the younger guys. Jimmy Andrews obviously is close to 70. Yoakum's up there in age. But the results from those pioneers that have done them for the last 25 years, these kids have a tremendous amount of hope because we've learned how to do it, perfect the operation, and protect the rehab aspect of it so they come back. Look at Edison Volquez. Now, Edison Volquez, sure, he had a bad outing the last time he pitched, but he's still throwing the ball 97 miles an hour, and he's getting that feel for the plate. You look at Tim Hudson, you look at Carpenter, you look at Liriano, you look at these guys. We know how to rehab them now. We know how to push them. We know how to build their bodies back and get them to pitch to a high level. So a guy like Steven Strasburg, if that's the injury you have and you're dealt with, you have a very, very high chance that you're going to, you're going to come back. As a matter of fact, the Reds got a player from the Los Angeles Angels last year.
Arredondo?
Who just lights out, and they knew he needed Tommy John. We did the Tommy John procedure on him, and he's doing extremely well. And come next year, spring training early in the season, this is a guy that's got a potential to be absolutely dominant at the back part of our bullpen. So, again, predictable procedure. You take him, you do the operation, thinking the outcome will be good. I have high hopes for Strasburg. It's really devastating blow to that organization.
Sure. Before we grab some calls, high school football is underway, and it's one thing to practice and think you're ready. It's another thing when you go out there and actually hit and the pads are popping. There's got to be some early concerns in the season for injuries, right?
Well, you're always concerned. I mean, our whole group, Beacon Orthopedics, we take, we take care of Xavier and the Reds and the Cyclones and all these high-profile athletes, but the high school kids are what that's our bread and butter. And all of us, starting tonight, actually starting last night, and this weekend with the Skyline Shootout, all of our docs, all of our therapists, all of our trainers are coveting the tri-state area at these high schools. And Moeller Place Sunday night, I'll be there. Indian Hills tonight at McNicholas. My son is making his varsity debut as a receiver for the Indian Hills.
All right.
So, we're always worried about injuries. We try to prevent it during the off season and into the summer, but we're prepared if the kids get hurt. We have our Saturday morning clinics here at Summit Woods. I'm here all year round, but it's really packed in the fall. The key for this is you want the kids to get in if they get hurt. They sprain an ankle, hurt a knee, hurt their shoulder. You want to evaluate them, MRI them if you need to, and you better get back to the coach or the trainer and the parents and say, you know what, he's going to be okay. He's got a little bit of pain, but you have 9 games left. Let's get him out there and play. Or it's a little bit more serious. Let's work it up. You need that early response so you can be respectful to the time that these kids put in preparing for the season. So if they can play, you want them to be able to, and that's what we're all about.
Let's grab some calls. Dr. Tim Kremchek of Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine checking in. Anderson, we go. TJ, you're on ESPN 1530.
Hey, Lance. Hey, Doc. Everyone's well. I'm in my basement doing my prescribed exercises that I got the other day, and I heard Kremchek was going to be on, so I was really excited. I was in there one thing, but quickly I saw that BP was in there the other day. Glad to hear that came out negative. Doc,
yeah.
Hey, I'm glad to hear that. Doc, you're doing my ACL surgery on the 21st of September.
Really?
Hey.
And
okay.
Write that down, Doc.
I'll be there.
And you get your ACL broken, everybody comes out of the woodwork that's had the stuff, and I was hoping you could maybe give me a little bit more detailed explanation again. I've heard things about tourniquets, cutting off the blood supply, how it's why your quad is basically a shriveled mess when you're done. I was curious if you could go over, highlight it again for me, what I'm expecting that day.
Well, actually, we do use tourniquets. Most of us that do a lot of sports injuries and ACLs pretty much have this operation down to half an hour or less. And so the tourniquet's not much. The biggest thing is what do you do with the cartilage? Sometimes and hopefully you can repair it. We like to sew that back if possible. Oftentimes, it's all arthroscopic. You make your ACL. It's not a painful operation. We do blocks on your legs so you don't have pain afterwards. You go home, you ice and elevate it, and I start therapy the next day. So, I never use the word routine. I don't believe in that. It's like minor surgery. What's the definition of minor surgery? It's when it's not happening to you. So, I mean, I don't say routine, but as far as something that is a common problem, and something we do an awful lot of especially in our institute here. It's something that has got it's like we were talking about Tommy John, a very, very high success rate, and we have an awful lot of models to fall rehab-wise to get you back doing everything you need to do. And so I wouldn't be excited about having the operation, but I'd be excited from having the injury now to getting back to a full 100% doing what you want to do.
TJ, thanks for the call. Doc, I have a daughter who is 8 who plays soccer, and I have read, I don't think I've imagined this, that female soccer players may be more prone to knee injuries than male. True? False? And what rhyme or reason for that?
Actually true. It's controversial as to why. It's a lot of people think it's the way that their hips and the angulation of their knees. A lot of people think it has to do hormonally, menstrual cycle as they start getting a little bit older. So there is some controversy. We do have, and there are some studies that show there are prevention programs to prevent injuries in female knee injuries, in particular ACLs. We have that here in our rehab center, and we're in combination with D1, a performance center here, so we've developed an ACL prevention program. Also, there's nothing that's 100%, and certainly nothing guaranteed, but you're absolutely right. If I have a daughter who's playing sports, I actually have 5 kids, 4 daughters. They're on prevention programs, so they don't, or at least they lessen the chance of them injuring their knees.
Interesting. Good stuff. Let's go to Loveland, then we'll pick up Jeff and let the good doctor run. Loveland we go. Doug, you're on ESPN 1530.
Hi, Doc. This is Doug. About 6 years ago, I'm 62 years old. 7 years ago, when I was 55, you did a meniscus surgery on my left knee.
Okay.
And we talked about possible knee replacement in the future. You weren't ready to do it at the time. Has anything improved in the last 7 years that maybe could possibly prevent that with?
Well, I don't think anything, not prevent it. Certainly meniscal injuries and arthritis, you sometimes arthroscope them, sometimes you don't. I'm very, very pro using the Synvisc, which is a lubrication inside of the joint with an exercise program to prolong or hold off on somebody having a knee replacement. Then certainly the techniques of knee replacement are constantly evolving, so the results are actually quite good. But, and again, medicine's constantly evolving, and us finding ways to get people and keep them active. I don't care if you're 80 years old or 18 years old, to keep them active, keep their weight down, their blood pressure are reasonable, and keep them on this earth for a period of time by keeping them healthy. And again, we promote health, and we promote health for men and women at all ages. So, yeah, there's a lot of advances, and what I would probably suggest is you come back in and talk to people about what your options are at this point.
Doug, thanks for the call. One more, Winchester we go. Jeff, you're on ESPN 1530.
How you doing, Lance?
Good.
Thanks for taking the call, Doc. I'm a sports official, and I call probably 500 softball games in summer and probably 100 basketball games in winter. And
Wow.
I carry a lot of joint pain in my knees and my ankles, and I'll be 50 in January. So I'm getting up in the years, I know. But I've had some people talk to me about maybe using some chondroitin or something like that. I use a little ibuprofen once in a while to try to keep the pain down. Anything you suggest?
Well, here that's you bring up a great point. And when I was a fellow down with Dr. Andrews in Birmingham, the SEC officials used to come in and had to do a conditioning program every year, and they had to have a certain minimum that they could run and they could lift and they could do so that they could participate on a high level and prevent injury. I am a very, very strong proponent of umpires, basketball officials, football officials having some type of an organized conditioning program to protect them from their injury, protect them from having the pains that you have, and having some type of an organized system. If you're calling 500 softball games a summer, that's tough on your body. And if you're running around those basketball courts like I see the officials do, that's tough on your body. So chondroitin sulfate is great. There's other things you can use for an anti-inflammatory, but I'm more interested in having the officials of that be on a more comprehensive exercise conditioning program, potentially year-round, so you can do it for a long time.
Jeff, thanks for the call. Doc, before we let you run, if there are those who still have questions or they want to know more about Beacon Orthopedics and sports medicine, how can they get the information?
Well, Well, you can call area code 513-354-3700, or you can look us up on the web at www.beaconortho.com. Again, we have our Saturday morning clinics. I know football season starts, but that's not just for football team. It's for men and women's sports. We're year-round Saturday morning here and at the West. And my associate, Dr. John Brannon, has a concussion clinic. And, again, that's important with football starting and get your bell rung on Friday night. He's got that at Summit Woods on Saturday morning. And, again, the idea is to get the kids in, evaluate them, and communicate back with their teams or coaches so we can safely keep them on the field for the athletic year. Again, I realize how hard these kids have worked to condition to get to this high level. Let's keep them on the field, but let's do it safely.
Doc, great catching up with you. Best of luck to your son tonight, all right?
Thank you very much.